working. He says something, and then he brings up grass, which is interesting because that's been kind of a topic on Guntersville, dude. They're talking about spraying freaking Guntersville, and I'm like, holy shit, like this is a cross nation issue we're running into. So it was kind of interesting to hear some of his perspectives, dude.
Yeah, and that was one thing, dude. It's been craziness, bro. Craziness in a good way. In a good way. Yeah,
that's good, dude.
But to your point, though, Mike, I wish I had gone to and asked Casey about the steps he'd gone to get involved with the state, because he's really led the way for us in getting even just in touch with these organizations. Him and Lorenzo, and so like we're seeing it now. I saw that letter that's been posted around about what you're talking about of spraying Guntersville again, and we've seen the. I don't remember how many years ago it was, but all the bass boats lining up to defend the grass so they couldn't spray it type of deal.
The old
I hope it
doesn't come to that again, dude.
Yeah.
Oh, bro, I'm going to start some shit. Like, no, I already have a video in queue on my YouTube channel for later this week. Like, because here's the deal. Like, so Casey's, from New York, like he's always been there and that. I'm a transplant, right? Like I saw somebody in the comments, I think it was like Mike Soul talking about Florida. Like I'm a transplant from Florida. I see where the end of this story goes, dude. And it's not a good place. So like everything starts in moderation. Everything, has a good meaning. Everybody's well-intended. And then the shit hits the fan. And like we had that same problem when they're talking about the pellets, dude, where all of a sudden they drop pellets on one part of the lake. Why is the entire lake dead? Like, is it wind current? Like what happened? Do you know these chemicals? Do you know what they're doing? Do you know what consequences they have beyond just killing grass? Like there's a whole gamut of stuff, dude. So when they started talking about that, I got fired up because I don't want to have to move again, dude. I literally like 50% of the reason I moved away from Florida was because of the grass spraying. Like I'd had enough, man. So it's something that's definitely like on the forefront. I'll tell you one thing though, there's a couple things with Alabama. One, a lot of these people live on the lake. They can pull this kind of shit in Florida because a lot of people don't like they're swamps, right? So people don't like live on these lakes. They're kind of like removed from what's happening and what's going on day by day, especially where it started on Okeechobee. But people in Alabama, dude, they're living on the lake. They see that. And a lot of people, it's a very, I don't know what the right word is. It's a very recreational and outdoor type of culture. So they're not going to just take this and be like, yeah, we got to get rid of the grass. Like there's going to be a lot of backlash and, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, dude. The more people complain, the more people start problems. That's going to be the way to solve this. I hate to say it, but I don't think traditional pathways are going to stop this from happening. Like we got to be annoying. We got to be Karens. What's the male version of a Karen?
Is it Ken?
Ken.
Is that what it is?
Matt, Ken, whatever. We got to be that.
Brad. Yeah,
like we got to be. That's the only thing that's going to stop it is pissy people, dude. Starting freaking not physical problems, not aggressive problems, but making a stink and really kind of pushing back against it.
Yeah, I still just can't believe what you're saying, dropping pellets in a TVA fishery. It's like, do you not realize that there's generation, there's current, like,
well, that's what I'm saying. Well, dude, not even the pellets, but like spray gets it too. Like that stuff all swirl. You don't control the water, bro. Like they sprayed in a creek. If you were to actually put like a bobber in the creek, that bobber would end up on the main river because all that swirls around and it moves. Like the water's always moving, dude.
You could do like preventative action, like if they do habitat restoration or rip-rap construction on waterways, they'll like cone it off and put like a fence or whatever down to block sediment from leaving. Maybe that's what they have to do when they spray is cone off.
No, it's very simple, bro. They don't fucking spray. Sorry. Yeah. They don't spray. Like it really, it's so here's the funny part. And I don't want to get all like soapboxy and stuff. The lake is fishing better than it's fished since I moved there in 2017, 2018. The past 2 years, look at the MLF, look at the local tournaments. Dude, the amount of 3, 4, 5 pound fish, as well as just giant bags, has been astounding. The lake is on an upswing. And granted, some of that is cyclical, no doubt. But there is one correlation. I see more hydrilla on Guntersville than I've ever seen since I moved there, dude. And you can't tell me that that doesn't have something to do with it. The eelgrass as well, dude. A healthy fishery, teeming with grass, teeming with life, teeming. What do they call that? What's that word for the bio something? It's like the weight. It's some word for weight. Biomass. The biomass is like freaking insane, dude. There's minnows, there's brim, there's speck or crappie or whatever they call them up there. And you want to go and spray it. Like it
doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. I understand why. There's a lot. If I owned an $800 to $1.5 million house on the lake and I had grass beating my dock to death, I would be pissed too. But they've implemented a lot of harvesters in that, which is the lower impact kind of pathway. It definitely doesn't do as much, but like that's how you do it, because the more you play with something, the more you get consequences that you never expected to happen. And that's what I'm concerned with. And that's what happened in Florida, dude. It started as this little kind of well-meaning thing, and the money and the consequences blew out of control. And now you can't stop it. It's a steamroller, dude.
Yeah. Well, and I'd argue there's not many lakes that can have this argument, but Guntersville, I feel like one of the major economic impact factors is fishing.
100%, dude.
Yeah.
Nobody would know what Guntersville is, like the town, if it weren't for that lake, bro.
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing that drives me crazy is, like, I understand, like you said, you got an $8 million house on the bank, but like the only reason that the town's getting any money is because anglers know about it. They're buying licenses. They're spending money at the local gas station. When they're from New York, they're from Canada. You know, people go there to go fish because it's it's like Lake Fork. People go there because it's like Lake Okeechobee. People go because it's well known. So why would you do anything to damage that?
100%. And I think that's the only thing that might save us is, whereas I don't know much about your northern lakes, so you guys can tell me if I'm wrong, but at least my experience growing up in Wisconsin, the lakes, people fished, but it was very recreational, right? Like you go up north to drink a few freaking old Milwaukees and sit on the bank or tool around in the tube, and that. Like Guntersville is a fishery first and a recreational area second. And I think it's one of the few lakes that you can say that about. Maybe some of the lakes in Florida as well. But I think that's something it has going for it. And the way the culture and sort of the infrastructure is built around it, it supports that. So I'm hoping that's going to kind of forward our argument or be like a strong wall for our argument. But I'm just worried because of this, dude. Like I said, they're well-meaning. Like, and if they want to spray some of this grass, I understand why. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, I see there's tons of grass. It's getting into the turbines for the dam and that. But the same thing happened in Florida. I'm not going to go into the whole expanded story, but like 2010, there's 2 airboats spraying on the north end of Okeechobee. Fast forward 5 years, and that's like every week or so, once a week, you know. Fast forward 5 years, 2015, there's a fleet of 30 freaking airboats on Okeechobee there every day, bro. Every day. And by 2015, we were starting to not see grass. So they were just spraying that shit wherever, dude. It was a joke. Like, it's so the money thing is dangerous, dude, because they built a whole cottage industry that's a standardized, you know, what do you call it, backed up paycheck. The government's paying for it. This company grows. And the last thing they want to do is cut down what they're doing, because that means that check goes smaller and smaller and smaller, you know?
Yeah. What's the group that Scott Martin pushes? What is the Anglers? Is it AFLO? Anglers?
Yeah, AFLO.
And that's even on a crazier deal, because haven't they linked that whole Lake Okeechobee spraying to like red tide in the ocean and everything like that?
So, all right, if we really want to, so Casey's talking about rabbit hole. So here's the funny part. There's always been red tide, and this is what nobody wants to talk about. It always happens late in the summer, you know, August, September, July-ish. It's always happened. It happened less when there was grass in the lake, because it strained the lake, and it really strained some of those giant blooms that would happen, because then that would filter through. It would go out the different ways out of Okeechobee. Now that grass is gone, it's worse than ever, dude. So yeah, it's kind of a chicken or the egg kind of deal, you know? Like, it doesn't. it's I don't know, and there's a lot of interest involved. Okeechobee's a funny deal. You have the coastal people, you have the inland people, you have agriculture, you have Army Corps of Engineer. It's a lot of politics, a lot of money, a lot of pushing forward, a lot of pushing back. But frankly, the red tide thing has always been a deal. The algae blooms have always been a deal. They were just less when we actually had grass.
Yeah, that's a good thing to bring up too. To clarify, that's freaking pleasure boaters, man. It always comes back to them running over your spots. 20 feet. I always enjoy those videos of those guys.
I'm fine with them. Like as long as they don't go spraying like a bunch of. Yeah. Well, and the funny part too with Guntersville, dude, is the river's always open. There might be floating grass, no doubt about it, but like it's navigable, dude. Like I don't know. It's the funniest part, dude. They recorded the press conference. And Paul from GTO has a little like social media crew, which is awesome because Paul is invested in the lake, financially and also spiritually. So he had his guys go and record it, and this dude gets up there, and it's a bunch of politicians. So you're like, yeah, great, This dude gets up there, he's like, I'm a crappie fisherman, You can't fish for crappie when you got this grass. I don't know what kind of grass it is. It's just floating around on the. And I'm like, bro. Like you're supposed to be our angler representative, and you don't even know what the hell kind of grass is floating around on the lake. Really? Like it's just like,
oh, great.
It's the same shit you get from the stupid politicians all the time. They're never going to forward your interests, and that's why we have to be self-advocates. We got to talk about it. We got to bitch about it. Yep. We got to make a stink and make our voices heard.
Is there? So like Casey was talking about the group that we formed here in New York. We talk about AFLO. Is there a group in Guntersville that's like together to give you guys a voice type of deal?
Not that I know of, but I'll be totally frank with you, Bailey. I'm not a group guy. You kind of know me. I mean, we've known each other for a while. I don't play well with others. I don't collaborate. I don't, so I've always been on a solo mission. But the one thing that I do know is there is a strong Facebook group for the lake. There's 2 of them actually. And in my personal opinion, if something starts happening that has negative outcomes, I think it's going to take 2 posts on there to get a bunch of guys together to really cause like a, I don't know what I don't want to say like a bad thing, but to cause a reaction, maybe to cause a bunch of people to get together to show up for a press conference, to show up for a meeting, things along those lines. I think it'll kind of self-evolve, and I know I'm gonna be pissing and moaning about it, dude. I'm not letting this shit happen again. Like it's not gonna happen.